Hey, Brian Kelly here from Zombie Guitar. This is going to be part 2 of the harmonic minor deep dive series, and in this part we're going to look at modes. We're going to look at the modes of the harmonic minor scale. So I've done a ton of other lessons on modes, most of which were about the modes of the major scale. That's the more commonly discussed topic. If you want to take a look at my recent 3-part series that I did on modes, I'll post links to that below. So if you don't understand what modes are, you're probably going to figure it out just by watching this lesson. But if you really want to dive more into the topic, that 3-part series is definitely where to look. So all that a mode is just a sound. So it's a sound that's associated with one of the 7 notes of the scale. So the scale that we're looking at in the series is the harmonic minor scale. So these are the 7 notes. And then it starts back over. So there's your 7 notes. You could expand this to 2 octaves. And then just kind of filling out the rest of the notes in this position. So I'm going to do all of the modes right there using just that pattern, because as I said, a mode is a sound. A mode is has an association with one of the notes of the scale. So a lot of people think that modes are patterns on the fretboard, like you play here, you're in one mode, you move up, you're playing in a different mode, you move up, you're playing in a different mode. That's not what modes are. Modes is just a sound, and basically you take one of the 7 notes, you dictate that to be your tonal center. You then take the associated chord that goes along with that note, which is what we did in part 1 of the series, and then you solo over top of that chord. So if I just play the A minor chord and I play this scale pattern and I treat the note A as my tonal center, you're playing the harmonic minor scale, or you're playing the first mode of the harmonic minor scale, whatever you want to call it. If I instead dictate this note to be my tonal center within this framework of notes, and then I solo over top of the second chord that's derived in the harmonic minor scale, while I'm then playing the second mode of the harmonic minor scale, it's going to have a different sound, it's going to have a different vibe, a different feel. The same thing would take place if I were to do it with the third note. If this is my tonal center within the scale pattern, and then I solo over the associated chord, I'm then playing the third mode of the harmonic minor scale. All right, so now we're going to be looking at the names and where all these names come from. And one thing I want you to understand before we even get into the names is that we're now going to be talking about modes in parallel. So previously, up until this point in the lesson, we've looked at relative modes. So relative modes share the same notes. Parallel modes share the same root. So if you don't understand that, or if you want to look more into that, that 3-part series that I linked you to below, my 3-part mode series, that explains relative modes, that explains parallel modes, and it explains all about that stuff. So definitely check that out because I will go kind of fast here. So basically, everything comes from the major scale. Every scale formula comes from the major scale. The major scale is always the starting point. If you see a flat symbol or a sharp symbol in front of numbers, that means you take the major scale and you change a note. You either flatten a note, you sharpen a note, whatever. So the 7 modes of the major scale are Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. The same 7 modes are found in the natural minor scale because the major scale and the natural minor scale are the same thing. It's just a different order. So your 7 modes of the natural minor scale, starting on Aeolian, Locrian, Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. So we're going to compare those 7 modes to the 7 modes of the harmonic minor scale and see where these names come from. So let's just look at the scale formulas. So if everything comes from the major scale, as I said, let's start on the note A and then just play our A major scale. So here's your A major scale. So just applying a number to each one of those notes: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the scale formula for the major scale, otherwise known as the Ionian mode. So if you want to get your scale formula for the natural minor scale, otherwise known as the Aeolian mode, you flatten the 3rd, 6th, and 7th notes. So here's your 3rd note, here's your 6th note, here's your 7th note. So just flatten all those by 1/2 step. All right, so A major, A natural minor. Those are parallel to each other because they both have the same root note, A. So now if you want to look at your harmonic minor scale, the scale formula for that is the same as that of the natural minor scale, but with a 7. Not a flat 7, just a 7. So here's your harmonic minor scale. All right, so that 7 is the same 7 that's found in the major scale. That's why it's just a 7. There's no flat in front of it. There's no sharp in front of it. It's just a 7. So you flatten the 3rd note and you flatten the 6th note of the major scale, and then that's how you get your harmonic minor scale. So that's just the first one. So let's look at the second one. So the second mode would be for the natural minor scale, the second mode would be the Locrian mode. So the Locrian mode has the scale formula where you flatten the 2, you flatten the 3, the 5, the 6, and the 7. You're flattening those notes of the major scale. So if this is your major scale, flatten the 2nd, the 3rd, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th note. So that's your A Locrian. So the harmonic minor mode is called a Locrian 6. So that means you're doing something to the 6. It means you're just not flattening the 6. So everything is the same except for the 6. So sounds pretty cool right there. That's why it's called a Locrian 6, because when compared to the Locrian, it just has a regular 6. But again, this all comes from the major scale. So then your 3rd mode would be the Ionian mode, the 3rd mode of if you're looking at it, where Aeolian is your 1st mode of the natural minor scale, your 3rd mode now is going to be the Ionian mode, otherwise known as just the major scale. So you're here. And then when you're looking at the harmonic minor, it's called the Ionian sharp 5. So what do you think that means? It means you sharpen the 5th note of the Ionian mode. So then you have your next mode. So if you're looking at the mode, the mode within the natural minor context, you have just your Dorian mode. So that is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, back at 1. If you're looking at the mode of the harmonic minor scale, it's a Dorian sharp 4. So that just means you take the Dorian mode and you sharpen the 4th note. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Sharpen that. Alright, that's where that comes from. So your next one would be the Phrygian for the mode of the natural minor scale, or the mode of the major scale, whichever perspective you're looking at it. So that is this. So it has a flat 2, a flat 3, a flat 6, and a flat 7. So looking at the mode of the harmonic minor scale, it's the same thing, but it has just a 3. Not a flat 3, it just has a 3. So that's this. Now, it's one of my favorite modes to play of this scale. I have a lesson about the Phrygian Dominant mode too. I'll post you a link to that below. Alright, so then we have Lydian. So Lydian is a sharp 4 when compared to the major scale. So you have your major scale. Sharpen the 4th, you have your Lydian. So a Lydian sharp 2 means you also sharpen the 2. So 1, 2, sharpen that. So you can see how some of these have some really exotic sounds, especially when you're looking at these things in parallel like this. So then finally you have your Mixolydian, which is just a major scale with a flattened 7th. So major scale, flatten the 7th. So this is your 7th. This has your Mixolydian mode. And then you have this Super Locrian mode. So this is really crazy. This is all flats. The 1, you can't really say the 1's flat because the 1 could be anywhere. But then with respect to the 1, everything is flattened from that of the major scale. And then when you get to the 7th note, it's double flattened. So this is a really crazy one. That's why it's called the Super Locrian. The Locrian by itself has a bunch of flats in it. It's really, really crazy sounding mode. The Super Locrian is even crazier. It has even more flats, plus that double flatted 7th. So Super Locrian, that's the name for it. So you have 1, you have flat 2, you have flat 3, you have flat 4. So here's your 4. Flatten that. So flat 5, flat 6, double flatted 7, back at 1. Really crazy mode. And that's based off that fully diminished chord, the 7th chord that's derived from the harmonic minor scale, which we talked about in part 1. So that's the craziest of all these modes. So if you thought Locrian was a crazy mode, Super Locrian is even crazier. I guess that's why they gave it the name Super. But anyway, that's where they come up with these names. So if you're wondering when you see a Lydian sharp 2 or Ionian sharp 5 or whatever, that's where they're getting this stuff. It all comes from the major scale. The major scale has the formula 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The other name for the major scale is the Ionian mode. Formula 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Anytime you see anything, a flat or any type of sharp, that's always coming from the major scale, just so you understand what this stuff is, why these things are named the way they are. And, kind of just like a refresher of what parallel modes are, what relative modes are, just so you kind of know the difference. Relative modes share all the same notes. You're just dictating your tonal center to be something other than the first note. That's relative modes. Parallel modes, you're just kind of looking at the scale formulas and seeing how one mode relates to the other mode, and you're looking at everything with the same root. Parallel modes is really the best way to really hear the difference in sounds of modes. So check out my 3-part series on modes. Check out my lesson on Phrygian Dominant. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to ask. See you next time.